Hi, thanks for tuning in here again. Today is episode 3 where we are going to work on the backdrop or the background, however you want to think about it. And also, what I want to do is extend the the shoulders and to the chest a bit because I feel like it cuts off a little too soon, and I don't want that. Um, Depending on how I feel, whether we save it for the next part or this part, is whether or not we'll fix a few little minor details. But if not, today the main focus is putting the backdrop. That way, when we add in more layers and more details, we can compare it to the back and know, okay, maybe we need to do this or that. So let's just get started. Um, just like last time, I hope you guys enjoyed. But just like last time, I'm going to do a time lapse, cut some scenes, and it's going to be voiceover. So I hope you enjoy. And if you have anything important that I feel as I need to tell you, I will cut the time lapse and tell you directly here. But let's get started.
So to begin this project, all that I was doing was mixing up a little bit of ultramarine blue, um, alizarin crimson, bright red, and some burnt umber. I'm not using really much white, but I was leaning more towards that purplish tone. So I was using a little less brown, that way the color could be more saturated. And the main thing here is I'm making sure that I'm using paint thinner to really thin out the paint and be able to just apply it on, because all I want is a very thin layer. And although I was only gonna approach it for this video, I actually use this method throughout the series where I use thin paint and just apply it layer by layer, and I'm always thinning out the paint. So as you can see here, I'm pretty much done blocking in the whole background. I'm not trying to make it look like fabric. I'm not trying to make it look perfect, because right now we're just blocking in that initial color, that dark color. That way when it comes time to adding details, we're able to add them on and make them layer on nicely compared to those light colors.
Okay, so this is the basic backdrop. We're still going to add more details onto the backdrop. I was thinning out the paint with paint thinner. Um, that way, the paint is very thin and dries out quicker. Um, but we're gonna add more details like the creases and crevices. But you have an idea of the color that's gonna go behind there. Now, the only reason why this spot looks lighter around her face is because since there was no paint, um, like here, then that white shows up underneath. But if you try to overlay, you have to wait until the paint tacks up and you can start laying without it peeling the paint from underneath. So, what I'm going to do, we're going to work on the hair a little bit. That way we can see where this needs to go. But before that, we're going to go ahead and bring down the the shirt a bit. That way we also have a better idea and we can work with the hair later on, as to where it's going to go behind, where it's going to go forward, all that stuff. So, with that, let's keep going.
So now my focus has shifted from the background to the shirt, really. Um, and I'll talk about this more later on in this video. But there's three options I could take it, and I end up going with the option of a long sleeve and just going completely with it. Um, so with this, obviously, initially I was gonna leave it where it fades out, but then after some going back and forth, realized that, you know what, maybe I should make it look like she's actually there, the model. And so I decided I would work on this shirt, and not to spoil it, but throughout the series I still have a ton of work to do on top of this shirt, because you want it to feel like there's layers and creases, and you want it to feel like it's wrapped around. One key mistake that I'm making here is because I had a grayed out purple color, I thought it would look amazing. So I thought to myself, let me go ahead and add that purple colored shirt, even though in the reference she's wearing a more grayed out shirt. And so um in my mind I was like, you know what, purple. And you, as an artist, one has the right to take creative roles and creative uh, just basically adjusted to their liking. um, there's no such thing as it has to be 100% unless it's a portrait that someone is paying you and they want it strictly that one way. But if you think, okay, if you see a photo and you look at that photo and you say, wow, that looks gorgeous, just because it looks good in a photo doesn't mean it's going to translate in painting. And sometimes for something to stand out against its background, you gotta make it either very light, and maybe they're wearing a dark shirt, or maybe with the composition, let's say going to landscapes, let's say with the landscape, oh, you love the way it looks, but in the painting it just doesn't feel right. It feels like everything's kind of squished, or whatever the case may be. So it's the same thing here. I wanted to change the color of the shirt because I thought, you know, purple's gonna fit her better. And come to find out, I was wrong. And so we're gonna fix that later in the video, I believe. But right here, all I'm trying to do is fill in that light spots surrounding her. It kind of looks like a halo, I think that's what it's called. But I'm trying to make it. But the one thing that I'm struggling here with is the paint is not completely dried, so it's kind of peeling off the paint, and you can still see underneath. So I just had to keep that in mind and just keep going, really. um Apart from that, you can see right here I'm switching to a more grayed out tone compared to that purple, and I'm just trying to adjust the tones, really get it toned in. Right here I'm using more blue, so it looks a little more grayed out, more blue, and I'm using a little more of brown. And so in a sec I outline where I want to work certain areas. And just adding highlights, shadows, really anything I can pick up in that moment. Because also keep in mind, yes, you're seeing this video of 20 minutes, but the sessions are taking me around an hour to 2 hours depending on the day. If I'm being honest and I look through the videos, I believe this video originally was an hour long, and it's, you probably wouldn't want to see a whole hour long of just me doing simple stuff. So it takes a while. We have to make sure everything's in together. So I'm just blocking in, going back, adding shadows, and making making sure everything kind of correlates. So right now, because I've been working for quite a while, I cannot see every little detail. My mind kind of blocks it. And so it's important to kind of give yourself that moment when you're painting. Give yourself that break. Give yourself that moment to kind of get a fresh mind. Don't feel like you have to force everything all in one setting. All that's gonna do is just make the results worse. And I tell you this because I went through it with the series. I tried to um, fit everything all in one, and I realized that's not the point. And if I do that, it's gonna drive me nuts, and I'm gonna miss the details that's gonna make it all tie in together. So yeah, there's a little piece of advice. um, when you start to get overwhelmed and don't see the main things, just take a break. And also, another piece of advice I can give you is, when you're blocking in stuff, don't think about detail too much. Just think about the shapes of what it is. The most important thing you can do is just block in the shapes as close as you possibly can and just getting it to a T. Apart from that, once you get into modeling and final touches, final details, then you could start worrying about the little details. But in this moment, just focus on getting the basic shapes, whether it's a curve on the shoulder, whether it's a straight arm or slightly bent or um, straight down, whatever the case may be, just get the shape down. And as you can see here, all I'm doing is just blending out that light spot that was around her head and body. But rather than that, that's all really much done in this clip. If I go back to something I said earlier, I said that this video was an hour long. This video is about an hour long because of the time it took me to mix up the colors, the time it took me to blend the colors. So basically, you guys are still getting the whole video, but just cut down to the most important parts. Me, who I'm a fan of getting the most raw video, that way I can learn from it. I've seen the videos in the series, and even though they're they've been edited and cut down to shorten the time period, you're not missing out on much, and it's still easy to understand what's going on in that process. And so right here, I'm just working on the collar of the shirt, just adding a little highlight, little shadow, just as an indication to have right there. And then working back and forth, just shadows and highlights. I kid you not, I probably spent like a good 20 minutes just going back and forth on shadows and highlights, making sure I get it right, even though in the next couple of videos I'm going to go back to that, and I'm still going to work on the shadows and highlights. So I spent more time than what I should have, but that's right. It's a learning process, and if you don't learn anything, then that's a real issue. But I have so many take backs from recording this series, and you guys will be able to hear all those in the process at the last episode of the series, where after I put the final touches, I will tell you my thoughts and everything I went through. So if you're interested in that, not to plug my channel, but if you're interested in that, make sure to stay tuned, subscribe, leave a like, and just be ready for that. That's coming in a couple of weeks. I'm pretty sure I have the video ready by now, but all I have to do is upload it. But we're going based off weeks. But as you can see, I keep going back to the highlight, keep going back, and trying to work in something. I'm not gonna say much, but all I'm gonna say is where I had it uh, prior would have been good enough for the shirt. I really didn't have to keep going where I'm going with this, with the shadows and highlights and all that. But hey, how I said, it's valuable if you're able to learn something from it, if you're able to take something back from it. And so that's pretty much how the painting ends. I might do a little tweaks here and there or blend out the shadows and the midtones, but apart from that, it's pretty much um, where this episode ends off. You could see me keep going back, adding highlights, shadows, trying to get more form, but the form's already there. How I said earlier, the main things is you get the shapes down. As soon as you get the shapes down, you're good. So, if you try this painting out, or if you try a portrait out in general, don't overstress in those beginning stages because you're just blocking in shapes. And if you really have to uh, practice, I would highly recommend you working in black and white because it forces you to forget color and just has you focus on shapes and values. And what I mean by values is light and dark, and that's it. You don't have to worry about much. And so it forces you to simplify everything compared to with the mind. When there's color, you want to overcomplicate things and add each little detail. Just slow it down. Slow it down, and you'll be fine. So now my main focus is just going back and forth because with the lighting, I have such a strong light over my easel, so sometimes it can be hard to see whether a certain color is dark enough or light enough. Mostly light enough. So I keep going back and forth with the highlights and then I keep blending it. And you'll see throughout the video just me trying to get that right tone, um, which at the end I don't even get that tone that I want, that exact tone. But me being a perfectionist that I try to be, I'm trying so hard to get those tones of the shirt and get it right. That way it makes my life easier for the next video. um, as you can see here, I'm trying to fix the shape of the shoulders, round them off a little more by going in with that uh, dark color mixture, which is ultramarine blue and burnt umber. Just putting some to kind of shape it and blend in with the background. And really, all that I'm doing is spending unnecessary time, but it's good. It's fine. It did end up helping me a little bit, even though I still had to adjust things afterwards. But apart from that, it's just blending and then it's shadows and it's highlights. Nothing special.
So this is where we're at when it comes to blocking in. I know it looks very dark on camera. Let me see if I can adjust it to show you guys how similar um, or how lighter it is. Because I had, oops, that's too much. Somewhere around there is how I see it. I know it's very messy, and there's still a lot of blending that needs to be happened. but also we have to create the shadows of the creases on the shirt and all that. Now, here's the thing. Honestly, before I was just gonna have it cut off and blend off, but I found that same uh, that same photo we had taken. I found the full version. So I guess that reference. Oops, got a little bit paint on myself. Um, I guess the reference that I was using. Let's say you're seeing me this much, right? That reference went from this much to this much. And so I found the one where it shows everything. And we can see, I'll put it up on the screen. You can see she has a long sleeve shirt. So there's no point. I mean, obviously, there's three routes you can take with this. You can have it cut off and blend off somewhere around here, and that would be just fine. And you can say it's done on purpose, which it is, to kind of blend it and create that mystique underneath and make it pop. Or number two, you can make the shirt into a short sleeve, um, which initially I was gonna do, but what I wanted to attempt was trying this out and seeing, okay, does that fit well, or is it too what's the word? Does it not fit well, or does it? That's basically the main question. And in this scenario, the answer was yeah, you can work with it. Now, I'm trying to look at the reference. Yeah, there's a little bit of gap, but also this gap gets, it's not a big of a gap as I have it here, so I have to adjust that. And we, of course, have the necklace, which I can do when adding details. But um, yeah, we basically just have to add the creases to make it look more alike and more like a shirt, because right now it just looks like a blob. And um, so again, I think I'm gonna have to wait for the backdrop, but at least we have a basic color, which is that dark color you see in the reference. We have that dark color that we can refer to. So when we're doing our highlights, our shadows, our blush, whatever the case may be, we can compare it to the background, especially the hair. The hair is a very important part. Um, this will help us kind of judge our colors and all that little detail. Now, of course, on the next video, we're gonna start modeling a bit more the the background with the creases and the highlights of the fabric behind her and all that. We're gonna start adding in to make it look like the eyelashes are more realistic. Her um, oh no, the eyebrows, the eyelashes, and then what I didn't realize, but I saw afterwards, was that her nose actually, it's thin at the top and it becomes a little more wider than what I have it. So we have to make it a little more wider and that shadow a little less. And then also the chin, kind of bring it up a little bit, just a little bit, and then make these shadows darker. So apart from that, it's just minor details where once you start putting it together and layering it, it's gonna look good. We're gonna have the highlights for the hair here, and then at the back, it's gonna be much darker, which we run the risk of it blending in. But if we play it just right and add some highlights behind there with the fabric, we can play it off just right. So, anyways, we're gonna continue on. Um, Actually, no, I'm sorry, but that's basically blocking in. We blocked in the backdrop, we blocked in the shirt. Final part of blocking in. So episode three, blocking in. Episode four is gonna be um, uh, detail or modeling, however you want to think about it. And then episode five, which would be the last episode, our final details, making sure everything um, works together and is coherent. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for coming back and supporting me and this new journey we're embarking on. But yeah, I have nothing much more to say than thank you, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care, have a good week, and I'll see you next Friday. Goodbye.